Their north-south collision, a new world fusion, a bridge. Now, as all of you know, a Peruvian is taught to respect the past, to look back, to honor her parents and her ancestors. She lives in her parents' and her grandparents' world, not the other way around. She takes her time, she values her home, and if for some reason she has to leave it, she takes her home with her. If she's a good parent, she teaches her children that home is the best thing they have. A North American, on the other hand, looks to the future. Every day in America is a new beginning, a chance for redefinition. Change is the dominant norm. Children, an opportunity for reinvention. A North American forges ahead. She's always in a hurry. If she's a good parent, she teaches her children that freedom is the best thing they have. To make a long story short, for as long as I remember, I have inhabited two separate, somewhat opposing worlds. The concept of two has obviously made a deep impression on me, for I also had two careers. One as a critic, the other one as a writer. Now, a good critic is a person who has no trouble saying no. And a creative writer is a person who absolutely, positively needs to say yes. In other words, they are opposing entities, as radically different as North and South America. I started out wanting to be a ballerina. I graduated from that to wanting to be an opera star. By the time I was 17, I decided I'd better stop dreaming. So I took President John F. Kennedy's advice and started concentrating on what the government called critical languages. In my case, it was Russian, a language I've been studying since I was 13 years old. When I graduated from Northwestern University with a Russian literature major, the only institution that was interested in talking to me was the CIA. So, like anyone else who needs a little time to think, I went to graduate school. I studied Mandarin Chinese and sociolinguistics and started teaching English and Spanish and French to high school students in the British colony of Hong Kong. When I came back to the United States 8 years later, I was in my late 20s, a mother of a little girl, and looking for work in New York City. There weren't a lot of employers advertising for Russian Mandarin sociolinguists who needed to be home at 5:30 p.m. to take care of a 5-year-old child. But one day I saw a tiny ad in the New York Times, and it said, quote, "Major publisher seeks editorial assistant, foreign language is desirable, especially Russian." I applied for the job, which turned out to be a fascinating project at Harcourt Brace Ivanovich Publishers. The idea was to photograph a vast collection of artwork that was being held in the underground archives of the Hermitage Museum in Leningrad. The final object was to publish those photographs in a series of fabulously lavish books. To my delight, I was hired by the very talented, very wonderful Russian-American pianist who was the brain behind the project. His name was Eugenia Stoneman. And I'm going to embarrass her, but Mrs. Stoneman, Eugene Stoneman's widow, is here, herself an accomplished woman, by the way. Artistic director of the Kennedy Center, president of the Manhattan School of Music. Sorry, my people. So, Eugenia Stoneman hired me for this fabulous project. For me, it was the beginning of a long career in books. As it turned out, the Leningrad project never worked out because the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan just days after I took the job, and Jimmy Carter issued a law forbidding American companies from taking sophisticated laser equipment into Russia. The CEO and president of Harcourt Brace, William Ivanovich, saw me sitting around twiddling my thumbs. And so, being a sharp manager, he decided to give me a few challenging assignments. One morning, he walked up to my desk and he said, "I'm giving a speech tomorrow at so-and-so university. It's to an audience of about 1,000 young people, and what I want to tell them is why they should care about books. You look pretty young. You write the speech." On another day, he said, "I'm thinking of buying a company that publishes authors who have written more than 40 books of a single genre. Mysteries, horror, adventure, historical fiction. Write me a full report on all American writers, and all writers in English translation for that matter, who've ever done that, and have it on my desk within 48 hours. It was the most exciting and terrifying time of my career. Eventually, after enough of those crazy assignments, Mr. Jovanovich brought me up the ladder and made me a senior editor of his company. He was an ideal and generous mentor, and I learned a great deal from him. As time went on, I went off to work for Simon & Schuster, publishers, as vice president, as the ambassador said, and then as literary editor of the Washington Post.